We are worried. What are the benefits that we are getting out of the budget as individuals, and I'm sure for your constituencies as well? So I'm not going to dwell on figures. And what I will share, I want to start by just talking about what is the budget. I know you know that, but I think if we look at all the figures that were presented before, we need a context of why we are looking at those figures and why they are so important. The national budget is an important instrument of resource allocation in order to ensure not just rapid pace of GDP growth, but also the achievement of development imperatives such as price stability, employment creation, universal health coverage, addressing gender inequality and sustainable development, so that gender equality is not just speak about gender equality. The Minister of Finance and Economic Development spoke to all these issues in his budget on Thursday, 28 November. The national budget can enhance the quality and pattern of economic growth in the country by facilitating structural transformation, technological upgrading, and diversification by shifting resources from low-value activities to those that have higher value activities. And I'm sure you're watching during the minister's presentation whether we are moving from the low-value added activities to the high-value added activities. Such a bold transition necessitates prioritization of both public resources and investments in sectors with strong, decent job creation potential, including the care economy, which we often forget, the health sector, the green economy, and education on more significant scale than the current levels that we have. So at every budget presentation, we watch out whether the current levels have been exceeded. The national budget should fully implement a rights-based approach that reinforces and prioritize resource allocation in socio-economic rights. And the Honorable Chair did speak to this. He called it citizen-centric budget. This includes health and other social determinants of health, such as education, employment, water, and sanitation. I'm sure you all know that Zimbabwe is signatory to various regional and international agreements, and these provide benchmarks. And the previous speaker kept referring to these benchmarks and whether we are meeting the benchmarks in budgetary allocation, and also to making sure that the fundamental socio-economic rights are met. I know in all the two presentations, because they were talking figures, they didn't talk about our social economic rights, but they are critical. Therefore, prioritizing the attainment of these benchmarks is so critical to sustain development in the country. Youth, people with disabilities, and women-focused national budget is a budget that provides provisions and opportunities for youth, women, and people living with disabilities to be able to actively participate in economic development. Otherwise, they get left behind. It enables the women, youth, and people living with disabilities to realize their full potential through prioritizing sectors and groups that include the formal sector, informal agriculture, and all the other sectors that we consider not so crucial. The Minister of Finance and Economic Development in his presentation, he called this budget building resilience for sustained economic transformation. And for me, this means successfully adjusting to a difficult or challenging environment. And what does this environment mean for women, youth, and people living with social disabilities? Let me look at the social context. We might say we looked at the social context when we're talking about our priorities, but the social context is so key if we are to understand the figures and the percentages that the previous speaker was presenting and what they mean in the reality of women, youth, and people living with disabilities. The previous speaker also spoke about the poverty levels, and I want to read this in my name. The poverty rate remains very high, estimated at 39.8% in 2023. It had gone down from 40.9% We are doing pretty much well in addressing poverty, but this is far from Zimbabwe's aspiration to reduce the share of population below the food poverty line to 10% by 2025. This is according to NTS 1, where the NTS 1 is saying we should reduce the food poverty line by 10% by 2025, which means next year. The El Nino drought-induced drought has resulted in significant reduction in crop production, and I'm sure you are all visiting in most of your constituencies. Increasing food insecurities, exacerbating poverty situation. The high levels of poverty inequality and food insecurity, especially among the vulnerable and marginalized groups, therefore necessitates greater public spending on critical productivity. Which means when we look at the budget, we need to look at, is public spending going to increase in these critical sectors, enhancing and reducing poverty, and also cutting down and making sure that social protection, health, and education are catered. The country's health, as you all know, all our members, continues to face the myriad challenges that include inadequate and depleted healthcare workforce. Will our budget be able to take care of that? And the figures that she presented, are they taking care of that? Infrastructure and immigrant hospitals. We know you go on social media. The examples that are shared of the challenges that people are facing in relation to their health. Prohibitive cost of emergency and specialist services with a level of decentralization of such services. How many people come to Harare from the rural areas for health care? Lack of financial risk protection mechanisms, inadequate budget allocation, therefore, and gross public underinvestment does evidently impact in the sectors that I'm talking about. The country faces very limited social protection coverage, largely as a result of low social spending, social protection spending, as well as the high level of informality. I was in a conference where the private sector was talking about informality and comparing that we're probably even higher than West Africa, where informality has been there in the truth, which means this is an area that the expenditure is to address. The high level of informality means that the vast majority of workers are not covered by key labor rights or social protection, which exposes them to a variety of economic and life-saving contingency risks. The lower level of formality among workers and enterprises also negatively impacts the government revenue. I think the chair did speak about the importance of the government revenue. And if we're all in the informal sector, it means the government revenue doesn't increase and there is not enough to spend in the budget. And therefore, it diminishes social security contribution and tax receipts. About 7% of the population in Zimbabwe are members of the medical care scheme. That's about just 7%. Among those who are benefiting from medical insurance, most of them are in private enterprises, non-financial sector, households, and central government. Access to finance for women and young people that are involved in business activities remain low. This is largely driven by one, lack of collateral for high value borrow, which is compounded by constraints in use of the formal banking system. I'm sure we all know that the rates of the banking system are so high. Limited resources and base earnings to leverage access to finance. Youth, and let me say women as well, use of informal savings. We all know how women use informal savings mechanism. They do not hold long-term potential to secure financial finance. Collateral. Youth-run businesses, especially micro and small medium enterprises, tend to have a smaller asset base and more likely again to move into the informal economy. These are factors that make it very difficult for young women, for youth to meet the requirements for obtaining a loan. I've already spoken to interest rate in Zimbabwe being 10% a month. We had a presentation from a representative from the government of Kenya, and she was sharing that for the businesses that they are supporting, where the majority of women are, their interest rate is just 8% per annum. Now let me look at the budget. Having given that context, let me go on to look at the budget and what it means in light of the analysis that I've just made. When we look at rural development, a key highlight in any national budget is the proposal. A key highlight in the national budget statement is the proposal to set aside 670 million ZIG to support rural development interventions anchored on value-adding and beneficiating agricultural products. And the previous speaker did speak to it. Raising incomes for communities and ensuring food security at the household level. According to the budget, the objective is to establish 35,000 village business units in 35,000 villages, and that is to be recommended. 4,800 youth business units and 9,600 school business units, which can generate income for households in order to improve livelihood by 2028. I think this we should comment. During 2025, the target is the establishment of 10,000 business units. It is important to ensure that these interventions also focus on providing the requisite capacity development services, such as training, mentorship, business development services to the beneficiaries, to profitability and sustainable value of the businesses. It's so crucial that once we're aiming for 35,000 business units, these requisite supports are provided, otherwise it will be no avail. This is especially critical given that while most women and youth have very good levels of education, most of them lack sound business management skills. The initiative, therefore, should also be rolled out in partnership with key businesses, women and youth associations. Again, the chair needs to partnership with business, the PPPs, and this is where the PPPs play a crucial role. When we look at sustainable enterprises for women and youth, as well as skills for youth and women employability and productivity projects towards the completion of the Aura banana processing plant, which was mentioned in the budget, this is an important intervention which will benefit from the support of the African Development Bank. However, such an initiative must be replicated across the country, leveraging the comparative advantages in the different districts across the country to ensure that no one and no place is left behind. This should give you, as members of Parliament, an intervention that we will push for to ensure that it's across the whole country and your constituencies benefit. The budget also provided for capacity building for youth and women in fruit and vegetable value chain and curricular review workshops. This is crucial. It will help capacitate youth and women in the fruit and value chain. One just has to look at the Bonde Valley, the bananas that are produced in Bonde Valley, and you find them rotting by the roadside. The value chain will be so crucial. And I'm sure the member of Parliament from that constituency would support this in Parliament. Capitalization of empowerment of institutions. In addition, government is prioritizing the development and empowerment of youth programs through the capitalization of the following empowerment institutions. The Youth Empowerment Bank, what? 77.4 million ZIG. The National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe, 108 million ZIG. In addition, an amount of 113 million ZIG has been budgeted for refurbishing and equipping vocational centers which train and provide hands-on skills to the youth, enabling them to be competitive and develop entrepreneurs. There is no way we cannot applaud this move. Looking at the number of graduates that are coming from our universities, and are probably holding degrees that will not be valuable. So by capacitating with technical skills that will allow them to start entrepreneur in businesses, The 2020 budget will also support the National Youth Service Program with an amount of 672.1 million to nurture the youth into responsible citizens with values of patriotism and discipline. I know this is controversial, but at least it puts the youth together and look at their values. There is, however, a need to relax the stringent collateral requirements so that many more youths can benefit. Most young people have very little in the way of collateral, making them unfit as borrowers in the eyes of the most traditional financial institutions. The country can draw lessons from the Gramina Bank, the micro-lending model in Bangladesh that provides loans to self-informed groups with no collateral requirements. This is such a valuable experience that if this was to be provided to young people in Zimbabwe, where there is no collateral, but they are assured that with skills development, with access to markets, they should be able to start businesses without necessarily requiring collateral. Exemption of VAT on liquefied petroleum and gas LPG, and the previous speaker did speak to it. This is a positive move, which is expected to result in a significant reduction in the cost of gas, which will bring a lot of relief to both businesses and households, especially now with challenges with electricity. And owing to this worsening power situation, most households and businesses are relying on gas. It is a clean cooking fuel. It is key to achieving energy access, our contribution to clean energy. Access to clean energy also improves health and protects the environment through reducing deforestation. I think this is crucial, especially in the rural areas. There is huge deforestation as the source of energy is mostly wood. It is also recommended by the International Climate Change as a key climate mitigation measure. Reduction of customs duty on electronic motor vehicles. This reduction of customs duty on electric vehicles from 40% to 25%, we hope will promote eco-friendly vehicles in the country. This is critical in terms of addressing climate change. It will also reduce the importation of fuel and lower the fuel import bill. And I hope it can make the cars cheaper as well. The introduction, this is an interesting one. The introduction of 0.5 tax on the sales value of selected fast foods. I know it has called for exciting conversation on social media. My chicken and chips are potential, but really the reality in Zimbabwe is that more than half of Zimbabwe's population could be obese by 2035. This is just about 11 years from now. I'm looking at this group, honorable minister, and seeing us obese in 11 years. So the taxation is welcome. Obesity is scary, it has health implications. Therefore, the introduction of this tax is in line with international good practices, which seek to address the growing burden of non-communicable diseases. The consumption of fast food is one of the biggest risks for non-communicable diseases. We therefore recommend that the proposed fast food tax be ring-fenced towards the health sector, just like the sugar tax and the airtime tax, so that our health services and the health sector improve. In view of the huge labor market challenges facing the country, the national budget does not contain any direct and clear interventions to incentivize and promote the hiring of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Such incentives can take the form of tax credits for employing women, for employing youth, for employing persons with disabilities, as well as tax deductions for expenses incurred by businesses in removing physical structures and transportation barriers for persons with disabilities in the workplace. In the future, the governments must come up with, as well with, youth employment promotion policy framework designed to provide a harmonized, integrated, and coordinated approach to dealing with the challenge of youth and underemployment. The policy will ensure the realization of decent, secure, and sustainable employment and entrepreneurship for youth. Let me look at the vote allocations. I know I've been mentioning them as I went along. While there's been a nominal improvement in allocation towards critical sectors of the economy that enhance the well-being, the productivity of young people and women, such as education, allocations towards the most productive sectors are still below regional and international benchmarks. I did speak to Zimbabwe being signatory to various regional and international agreements that give us the benchmarks, but in a number of these, we haven't been able to meet benchmarks. The two education ministries got the highest vote, not the highest, but almost the highest vote of Z 56961.8 million. This is slightly above the declaration targeted at 20%. We've done fairly well. We could do better. Agriculture got Z 22,985.0 million, below the Wakuto declaration target of 10%. Social protection got Z 19,819.7 million, which is equivalent to 1.4% of the GDP, which is way below the social policy for Africa agreement of 2008. There's benchmark of 4.5% of the GDP. Public investment in water sanitation are critical to deal with the threats from waterborne diseases such as cholera. The country has experienced cholera outbreaks in the past, and government has allocated 423.0 million this year towards water and sanitation, which represents just 0.2% of GDP, which is way below the 1.5% GDP benchmark, which was set under the HMWINI Declaration of 2008. The Global Task Force on Cholera Control considered wash investment as the foundation to achieving the goal of reducing cholera deaths by 90% by 2030. You can see, just looking at the agreements and the benchmarks and where we are, gives us enough to be able to respond and debate the budget, and probably where possible, request for more. Debt spending as a share of the total government expenditure is an indicator of the priority given to health. The Ministry of Health and Child Care got an allocation of C28, 3.6 million in the budget. The allocation represents about 10% of the total projected public spending in 2025, a decline from the 10.6% allocated in 2024. The Abuja target remains an elusive target for the country, and this is a critical sector. It did get some relatively slightly high allocation, but more needs to be done. We know the state of the health sector in the government. The capita health spending on health is also expected to decline from 71.8% in 2024 to 65% in 2025. The per capita health spending on health is expected to decline from 71.8 in 2024 to 65. My apologies, I'm repeating that. According to the 2023 Global Expenditure on Health by WHO, the average health spending per capita in 2021 was $4,001 in high-income countries, and we are at $65. That's what is going to be in 25, compared to 4,001 in high-income countries, which is 8 times the $531 in upper middle income countries, 27 times the 146 in lower middle income countries, and 89 times the $45 in low income countries. And we are going to be at $65, just slightly above the low income countries. The same report, the WHO report, notes that progress in boosting health spending in resource-scarce countries is mostly been limited, despite the commitment to leave no one behind. And in Zimbabwe, seriously committed to leaving no one behind and leaving no area behind. The 2020 budget of to the Ministry of Women's Affairs is 1016.7 billion. 0.36% of the total budget. I know in the previous presentation she said 0.40. I'm giving it as is so that there is no difference in the 4%. With a focus on empowering marginalized communities, especially women and small enterprises. Key provisions to that budget were to the Zimbabwe Women's Microfinance Bank with ZIG 130 million, the Empowerment Bank 677.4 million, all aimed at enhancing women's access to financial resources. I know in Zimbabwe we'll be speaking about the financial inclusion of women, as well as support that will be going to the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Corporation Fund 30 million, the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe 108 million ZIG, all this to promote women-led businesses. Additionally, the budget included social protection programs such as food mitigation initiatives, BIM, which is the funding for vulnerable groups, as you all know, and are critical for supporting women who often shoulder the caregiving responsibilities. It also provided the procurement of assistive devices for individuals who live with disabilities, and an empowerment loan addressing the unique challenges that women with disabilities face. So we have to acknowledge that this was crucial for women living with disabilities. However, despite these positive provisions, the allocation of social protection 3.9%, health 10 points, I think that is 20%, I'm not sure that I can mistake it. Education 20.1%, they still need further investment. It is necessary to effectively address gender disparities and enhance the overall well-being of women and marginalized groups. And I'm hoping the female parliamentarians, the youth parliamentarians, of course, the he/she's will be supporting and pushing for the allocations to support women, youth, and people living with disabilities. The national budget does not adequately address the limited access to sexual and reproductive health services. And this implies that most women, especially in the rural areas, cannot choose if and when to get care. This can increase women's local care and exacerbate inequalities in care. Providing adequate funding for sexual and reproductive health is key to achieving improved access to sexual and reproductive health services, as well as adolescent sexual and health outcomes. We can unpack this and we know what it means. So I won't go into it.
You are left with 4 minutes.
I'm almost there. Earlier in my presentation, I spoke about the capitalization for the development of empowerment of youth. In totality, the Ministry of Youth, Empowerment and Development Professional Training was allocated 1018.4 million, which is equivalent to 7.37 of the total allocation. The outtake for the Ministry of Youth, Empowerment and Development as of September 2024 was 222.98 million, which is about 0.34 of the total expenditure. The ministry has utilized 55.8% of its total vote allocation by September 2024, just 55%. Therefore, what are the recommendations? The national budget does not fully address the aspirations of youth, people with disabilities, and women, the citizen-centric budget. The key women and youth aspirations relate to better access to education, skills, full and productive employment opportunities, greater involvement in decision making, especially in the national budget process, in accessing concessional financing, and importantly, investing in sectors that enhance productivity and the well-being of women, people with disability, and youth, which include, as you all know, health, education, housing, water, and sanitation. The national budget should fully implement the rights-based approach and ring-fence and prioritize resources. In view of the high levels of informality, there is need to increase support for MSMEs, including training, access to resources. Then the high cost of business remains a major challenge for women and youth entrepreneurs. I know the minister spoke to a number of propositions to make doing business easy. It doesn't continue to be. It doesn't seem to be easier or that it will be getting easier. More needs to be done to create an enabling and supportive policy environment. Promoting women and people with disabilities and youth entrepreneurship is critical to close the gaps in the labor market. This can be done by targeting low skills and education level, as well as provision of access to cheap finance. And I've spoken to this, so this is merely a repetition. The national budget lines reflect a fundamental commitment to gender responsiveness through the various sectors I've spoken to. However, there is need for more targeted programs addressing the particular challenges that face women in economic empowerment, gender-based violence, and the speaker did speak to that, and decision making, building a robust monitoring and evaluation framework so that there is tracking and looking at where the resources are going. There is no mention of increased funding for gender-based violence, and I'm repeating that. And this remains a significant issue. There is also need for timeless displacement of allocation to ministries. Chair, I've summarized my presentation, and I'm sure in the consultations we'll be able to look at each budget line and look at what have we gained, what have the youth, the women and people with disability gained, what did we not get, and I've highlighted some of that in my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sisto. Let's clap hands for her. So those are the issues that are coming out, high levels of informality, the need to focus on rural development, youth issues, gender issues, people with disability issues, dealing with the problem of equity, not necessarily equality, but coming up with programs that address issues of equity